This is the Louie T Network.
See, first come the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then my team was 6-10, and we ain't smell the playoffs. Yeah, I seen the Super Bowl, but I heard they just play balls. A lot of teams had injuries. Sam Bradford had to take off. Go hard in the offseason, but you don't know the half. Before you know, we gon' look up, and we ready for the draft. They dressed up in that suit top, and I don't know how to act. They waiting, so patient, so they can put on that hat. Who else could it be? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks you where you at, you tell her you in the lab room. Who else could it be? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks where you was at, you can tell her you was in the lab room. Yeah.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome, you are in the lab room. Of course, I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. Oh no, hurry! Offense for week number 4 in the National Football League. A lot of intriguing matchups. Some you knew how the outcome was going to be, others you didn't. Let's jump into these games. Part 1 of the week 4 hurry up offense. We start in Cincinnati. 3-0 Cincinnati Bengals football team looking to go to 4-0 in the season. Taking on the Kansas Chiefs, who are 1-2, and arguably you could say they have had the toughest start to the season. Some of these teams they've had to play, some of the environments they've had to go to, Green Bay, now Cincinnati, and Denver at home. Pretty tough to start the season off. This would be a very big win for them. It would help them salvage the first quarter of the season at 2-2. Tough stretch of football. They can get through it at 2-2. You feel good about yourself if you're Kansas City. Meanwhile, if you're Cincinnati, you can get through the first quarter of the season 4-0. This is a big one because what transpired on Thursday gives you a little bit of breathing space with the Ravens beating the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger being on the shelf for a little while. The future of the Steelers and how they're going to perform in the next couple of weeks in the balance. You look behind you in the rearview mirror. You get this win in week number 4. Nobody's there. At 2-2, the next closest team at 2-2 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're saying to yourself, hey, we're up here, king of the hill, by ourselves on the AFC North. Gotta get this one though. Tough Kansas City Chiefs team in front of you. Let's break this game down quickly. Kansas City. This game, I felt like had an ominous start. You had Cincinnati razor sharp to start the game. They go down, score a couple touchdowns. Alex Smith has a chance to hit a streaking Jamal Charles for a touchdown. Instead, he's a little off with the throw. Jamal has to turn around and catch the football, allows the defender trailing on the play to come back and catch him and stop him from getting in the end zone. They had to settle for a field goal. To me, that was the theme of the day for the Chiefs. Opportunities missed in this football game to make things happen, and that was one of the prime examples of why they did not get this win. You gotta get touchdowns. I say this all the time. You know the mantra, you know the motto. If you've been watching me for any period of time, you know what I'm about to say. Field goals don't win games, touchdowns do, and you can't afford to take opportunities where you get touchdowns and swap them out for field goals. That's what they did in this game, and they had to pay for it. A good throw, not a great throw, a good throw gets them in the end zone there. That was a bad throw where Jay Charles had to turn around and actually pirouette to catch the football, and it cost him the ability to run after the catch. But they hung in this game, and despite opportunities missed, and despite the fast start by Cincinnati in this game, Kansas City looked up at halftime, and they were only down to 14-12. 4 first half field goals for the Chiefs gave them an opportunity to hang around in this ball game, and it was all because of the defense. Jamal Charles on the offensive side of the football, 100 yards from scrimmage before the halftime break, over 50 yards rushing, over 50 yards receiving, so he was doing his part on the offensive side of the football. The Kansas City Chiefs defense bent for much of the day. They finally broke towards the end of the game, and I'll talk about the point in the game where the resistance finally wore thin, and they just weren't able to sustain the amount of pressure that was being put on them the entire day. But I thought the defense gave them opportunities to hang in this ball game and give them a chance to win, and the offense did not stand up to that challenge of getting over the hump, getting in the end zone, putting pressure on the Cincinnati Bengals to have to respond to a touchdown drive instead of a field goal drive. And to me, that was the difference in the game. But the lack of ability of getting in the end zone and that Travis Kelce fumble were the turning points in this game for the Chiefs, especially that Travis Kelce fumble. Game was 21-15 at the time of that fumble. And let me be the first to tell you, if you didn't already know, that wasn't a fumble. The officials had a rough go of it in this game, both sides of the football. They were struggling with Cincinnati, they were struggling with Kansas City. And this, to me, this call was indicative of the day the officials had in this game. You can't make this call, then you can't go to replay, look at it, and then determine that this is still a fumble. He was down. And these are the type of plays that alter games. This is deep in Kansas City territory. You're asking their defense to have to come in and defend 12 yards of real estate, essentially. Great play by Michael Johnson to force the fumble, and a great play by Reggie Nelson to recover it, but this was not a fumble. This should not have been awarded to Cincinnati, and this changed the game because 2 plays later, they get a rushing touchdown from Jeremy Hill, bust this game wide open, go for 2, get that, make it 29-15. The game was essentially over at that point. So it was just too much for this defense to have to bear. Thought it was a bad call by the officials, but let's not try to sit here and have a pity party for the Chiefs nor the Cincinnati Bengals. The Chiefs had opportunities to win this game. The Chiefs had opportunities to make this a much closer ball game. They didn't take advantage of all their opportunities. They don't get it done. Let's go on to the Cincinnati Bengals. You look at what they were able to do in this game. I'm gonna tell you what, man. I've been extremely impressed with this team throughout the first 4 weeks of the season. Now, it's only 4 games. I've seen this, and let me caution you with this. I've seen this before from this Cincinnati Bengals team, okay? And I used to be a big Andy Dalton supporter, man. I've jumped off that train a while ago. I'm not jumping back on, but I tell you what, man, this feels a little different. Okay, I've seen this before, so it doesn't look any different to me. It just feels different. But I'm not willing to go that far yet because it's Andy Dalton, it's Marvin Lewis, and it's the Cincinnati Bengals. I've seen all of this before. So I've seen this movie before, but the ending may be a little different. I'm not sure. It just feels different right now. Andy Dalton, he looks like a different quarterback. He looks like he gets it, but I've seen this before, okay? I've seen this before from Andy. I've seen stretches of football where Andy Dalton looks like he's ready to take that next step. And then you have a couple of weeks in there where you're like, okay, that's the Andy that I know. Andy. But he started the game like 7 of 7, 8 of 8. He was shredding this Chiefs defense. Took his team right down the field early in the ball game, led to a rushing touchdown for Jeremy Hill. They go right back down there again. Giovanni Bernard gets in, and it's 14-0 before you blink. But then they got stuck on 14. Then Mike Nugent misses a field goal, kills a little bit of momentum. So it's only 14-12 at halftime, and I'm saying, you're letting this Chiefs team hang around. Bad move. That's bad news. And then Andy rolls out of pocket. And we don't give Andy Dalton enough credit. The Red Rifle, we won't give him enough credit for his mobility. He's a guy that every now and again, Hugh Jackson will allow him to do a little read option action and stick it in the belly of the back and pull it out and run. And we saw that last year. I remember the game against Tampa Bay. He had 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns in there. He can do that from time to time, but we don't give him enough credit for his athleticism and his ability to move out of the pocket. He rolls outside the pocket to his right and rifles the football down the field to Brandon Tate, who makes a gorgeous, a hell of a diving stab, gets up, is untouched, gets into the end zone for a 55-yard touchdown grab. And I thought that was a big play in the game to make it 21-12 at the time. And then I talked about the fumble that wasn't, but was on the field. The Travis Kelce fumble, big scoop up by Reggie Nelson, leads to a touchdown that really put this game on ice. And I also want to talk about Michael Johnson, who forced that fumble. He had a huge day. He got pressure on Alex Smith, had a sack or 2 in this game. I thought he was big, and it's good to see him come back to Cincinnati because he struggled in Tampa Bay. He's back where he's comfortable. New number, same player, looks good for this Cincinnati Bengals team. They're starting to get pressure on the quarterback now. We know Geno Atkins is finally back. Johnson coming back and getting pressure. We also saw Dunlap getting to the quarterback. This is a really good defense. When they're clicking on all cylinders, it's going to be a tough team to deal with. They get it done at home in dominating fashion, 36-21. It was close for a very long time. The score can be very misleading. This was a close ball game throughout. But that fumble, that wasn't, it was really change the outcome of this game as the Cincinnati Bengals get it done. Move to 4-0 on the season with a 36-21 win over the Kansas City Chiefs. They dropped to 1-3 on the season. It's been rough for them. And I'm not counting them out yet because they're a good football team defensively. When Alex Smith isn't turning it over, and another big day for Jeremy Maclin. They're going to be fine once they start playing lesser competition. They can stockpile some wins and get back into it. But it was rough starting out this season with the competition that they had and the locations that they had to go to. That Thursday night loss to Denver, that was gut-wrenching. They're now 1-3. Let's see how they bounce back after this loss on the road to the Cincinnati Bengals. You go to the next matchup, Buffalo Bills at home versus the New York Giants. This was a game I thought the Bills had a chance to come out and really build up what they did a week ago against the Dolphins, beating the brakes off the Dolphins at their stadium in their home opener. I just thought that was very disrespectful. Now you got a chance to go home and do the same thing to a Giants team that feels good about what they were able to do on Thursday Night Football versus the Redskins, and they came out flat. Did the Bills first though? Let's talk about the Giants, what they were able to do in this game. Giants weathered the storm early, and I thought that the crowd at Ralph, man, the Ralph was rocking early in that ball game. It was loud. Eli Manning couldn't hear himself. They had a delayed game. They had a false start penalty early in that ball game. You could tell the crowd had an impact early on this ball game, and I thought that the Bills defensively, they were feeding off that energy, but the offense, they got lost somewhere in the translation. They just came out extremely flat. But that Kennard interception, and that was a beautiful play down the sideline. He's throwing the football. It's Tyrod Taylor to Charles Clay. Looks like Clay's going to be able to come down with it. And Kennard comes away with the football, takes it from him. Big play down the sidelines. To me, that changed the ball game because that took the crowd out of the game, gave the Giants great field position, gave them an opportunity to score their first touchdown in the game, and they never looked back from that point. As Dwayne Harris catches the football, gets in the end zone, and next thing you know, the Bills never saw the Giants again in this football game. Giants D, much better than people think. And I think we've disrespected this Giants defense. Want to know why? Name a player on that Giants defense. Maybe you just named one. Name another. You can't name a lot of players on this Giants defense. They don't have a household name defense. They've been dealing with a bunch of injuries. This is a defense that they just plug guys in. They're getting it done. And I marvel at what they're able to do. First of all, their run defense, top notch. Okay? Haven't seen a team exploit them on the ground yet. And they played some teams that can run the football. This Bills team had over, almost 200 yards rushing last week against Miami. The Redskins came into the game last week as one of the best rushing teams. The Giants aren't giving it up on the ground. We know about what the Cowboys have been able to do in their offensive line. Giants were able to hold them down for the most part in that game. This Giants defense is a lot better than we give them credit for. They got guys out there playing some good football, and they're getting it done. And this was a Bills team averaging up over 30 points a game, doing what they wanted to do on the offensive side of football, and the Giants simply were not having it in this game. Eli Manning spreading the wealth, spreading it around to all his skill guys. And this team is much better on the offensive side of football when Eli is spreading it around to more than just ODB. When he's just throwing the football to shame on you when you step to the old dirty backup. Other guys aren't getting involved and they fall asleep behind the wheel, and then next thing you know, you're keying in on ODB and his offense gets stagnant. We saw that in the 2 losses against Dallas. He was the one guy, he had over 10 catches in that game, I want to say, and definitely over 12 to 15 targets. And we saw the same thing against the Falcons the next week. He was the dominant player. Nobody else really helped and chipped in that game. They ended up losing. But you saw in the 2 wins, you had Ruben Randall have a big night, over 100 yards receiving. You saw in this game, everybody was touching the football. A lot of guys got involved. Ruben Randall had a nice game. So did Dwayne Harris. Tight ends getting involved. A lot of people touching the ball. And the biggest play of the game might have been the Rashad Jennings catch and run for a touchdown. That was outstanding. Speaking of which, let's jump into that. That was a tremendous individual effort by Rashad Jennings to catch the football in the flats, make the linebacker miss, pick up the first down, outrun a defender, jump over that tackle, and then stiff arm Bakari Rambo with a stiff arm from hell, throw him to the ground, get into the end zone, open up the door, step through. That was a big time play by Rashad Jennings. But this defense, again, I talked about how well they played. Tremendous goal line stand down by the end zone. Another big turn of events to really swing this game into the favor of the Giants. Bills get down inside the 5-yard line, looking to get in the end zone, and you're thinking, okay, they're about to score and turn this game around, and the Giants defense rose again, stopped them from getting in the end zone, and really, to me, that was a set of downs that really changed this game after that Kennard interception early that gave the Giants some momentum. That was the other set of plays that really put this game on ice for this Giants football team. They're still struggling to close ball games though. They were up 24-10. This game should have been over. They get inside the 15-yard line. Why are they passing? Don't ask me. On 3rd down, they're throwing a football. Eli Manning gets picked off by Gilmore and gives the Bills some life. Even though the Bills weren't able to do anything with the football, it doesn't matter. Even though the game was late, it doesn't matter. Why are you doing this? You had problems this year. Take the field goal. First of all, run the football. Make the Bills use a timeout or eat up some clock. Kick the field goal. Go up by 3 scores. The game's over. Why are you doing it? I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know. I don't have any logic for what they're doing on the offensive end of the football when the game is in the balance. I don't get it. Don't ask me. But let's go on to the Bills though. I thought the home field advantage was in full effect early in this game. I thought the crowd came out, they were juiced, they were amped because of what the Bills had done in the first 3 weeks of the season, coming into this game at 2-1, what they did a week ago against Miami. They were amped for this game. They felt like the Bills were going to come out and really show that they're one of the better teams in the league, and then they got that dud of a performance from the offense, and it really kind of trickled down to the rest of the football team. Slow start by this Bills offense, a lot of drop passes. You had just a number of things that just looked out of sync, did this offense. I mean, Tyrod Taylor didn't look like himself early in the ball game. He did have an explosive run later on that should have been a touchdown. I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but you were missing, to me, you're missing a lot of guys. No Shady McCoy, no Samuel Watkins, but you still had enough playmakers out there. Robert Woods, you still had Percival Harvin. I love Los in the backfield, Carlos Williams. You still had enough stuff. Charles Clay got a lot of targets in this game. You still had enough stuff to get it done, and I just thought that everyone looked lethargic and lackadaisical on the offensive end of the football to start this football game. And before you knew it, you were down 16-3, and you were really fighting an uphill battle, and they just never were able to respond after getting down. Bills costly mistakes hurting them in this football game. You got a drive that the Giants have when the score, I want to say the score was 3-9 at the time, and they're going to have to settle for a field goal. And the Bills had aided that possession with penalties to give them opportunities to get in the field goal range, but they had got the stop they needed. They were going to force Josh Brown to make a field goal to make it 12-3. Instead, you had, I want to say, a guy lined up over the center. You can't do that on field goal attempts. And next thing you know, Giants get another opportunity, fresh set of downs, and they go right down the field and they get in the end zone, score a touchdown, make it 16-3. And to me, that was another huge play in the game. Too many mistakes by this Bills team. They just weren't disciplined. They had a boatload of penalties. We're talking 13, 14, 15 penalties in this game, and thought they lost their composure later on in the game. I'll talk about that here in a second, but the penalties were a huge issue. I talked about Tyrod Taylor having an explosive run. I call him TNT because he's explosive. He had an explosive run, breaks the tackle, breaks contain, gets outside, tiptoes down the sideline, gets in the end zone from about 35, 40 yards out. It's called back because Craig Urbick is holding on the play. It was that type of day for the Bills. It just was. And Carlos Williams continues to impress. Los looks like he's the real deal at the running back position. You got some stuff on this football team. A lot of talent, a lot of guys that can get the job done, but no one came to play, it seems like, on the offensive side of football in this game. Bills unraveling late, despite the Gilmore interception. Preston Brown had a rough day. He had about 2 or 3 personal foul penalties. Guys just lost their cools. And again, when you're a team that's trying to learn how to win and you're trying to change a culture, you can't have meltdowns like you had at the end of this ball game. It just shows a lack of discipline in a team that isn't used to getting it done. You can tell that he's got some work to do. If this team's going to make the postseason and end the longest drought in the NFL currently of teams missing the postseason, he's going to have to do some work on this football team because they still don't get it quite yet. Giants come into New York, into Ralph Wilson Stadium and get a 24-10 victory, go to 2-2 in the season. I told you, there's nothing more dangerous than a Tom Coughlin coach team that's backed into a corner. They were backed into a corner at 0-2 on Thursday night versus the Redskins. They win, they come out and beat up the Bills at their own building and get it done. The Bills dropped to 2-2 in the season after an impressive win last week. They come home and lay an egg. You go to the next matchup, Jacksonville at Indianapolis. I told that the Jacksonville Jaguars, they had a prime opportunity if Andrew Luck wasn't playing. I didn't expect Andrew Luck to miss the game, but what do you know? Andrew Luck doesn't play in this game. Matthew Hasselbeck, the 40-year-old, starting for the Indianapolis Colts, which means you got a shot if you're Jacksonville. Take full advantage of this opportunity. Don't look now, but if you win this game, you're 2-2, and you're sitting right atop the AFC South. Can you believe it? The Jacksonville Jaguars, after 4 weeks of the season, could have been atop the AFC South division. But they don't know how to win, man. They're not ready for it. Just like I said last week about Tennessee, same thing applies to Jacksonville. They're not ready for that type of attention. They're not ready for that type of limelight. They're not ready for that type of spotlight. They're not ready. And it's a shame because this was a golden opportunity for them to do some damage in this division. Turn it upside down. I mean, really, the last 2 weeks, the whole division collectively could have, and Houston will have the same opportunity, but it won't mean as much now because the Colts have gotten back to 500. So they pretty much stabilized their situation. This division as a whole could have stood up to the Indianapolis Colts and said, you know what, you're not winning the division this year. They could have stood up as a whole group, stood together, because not one of these teams is strong enough to take Indy down by themselves. But as a group, collectively, all three of these teams standing up, hand in hand, they could have took Indy down together. One after another had a chance to systematically break this Indianapolis Colts team down. Had they lost the last 2 weeks, and both teams had opportunities to win, had they lost those ball games, we'd be talking about Chuck Pagano in the same light as Joe Philbin, as we were talking about Joe Philbin today, and he got fired. So they could have really put some pressure on the Indianapolis Colts, but Tennessee doesn't get it done last week, and the Jaguars failed to get it done this week. Blake Beal, I thought he looked really good in this game. He was stroking it down the field. He had one possession where he hits Allen Hurns down the field. He hits Allen Robinson down the field, and it puts them in a position to score a touchdown, but they don't. And that's part of the reason why they weren't able to win this game. They had to settle for a field goal. But he was stroking the football, and I thought that Blake B was sharp in the first half, takes them down the field, puts them in field goal range. They get a field goal to give them a 13-10 lead right before the half. And I thought he actually did enough in the second half, you know, in the regulation, put them in a position to win the football game. Field goal kicker can't get it done there. Puts them in a position to win in overtime. Field goal kicker doesn't get it done there. So I thought he did more than his share to get them in a position to win this game, and they just could not get it done. Jags capitalized off of a Josh Robinson fumble, and they get a touchdown to Allen Hurns. Blake B rolls out of the pocket, surveys the field, finds Allen Hurns in the end zone. Jonathan Cyprien makes a difference on his defense. I didn't think he made that big of a difference, but he makes a big difference. And it's always those guys that are, you know, big hitters, that are physical enforcers. Those are the guys that like to get hurt all the time. But he makes such a big difference to this defense. He was in the backfield, he was diagnosing plays, he was blowing stuff up. This guy makes a huge difference. If he could just stay healthy, this Jags defense would be a lot better because this guy makes a difference. You can see it in this game. TJ Yeldon had a phenomenal game, over 100 yards, his first career 100-yard rushing performance. Congratulations to him on that feat. And he had a huge run in overtime to put them in a position to make the game-winning kick. And let's get to that guy, man. Jason Meyer. You get rid of Josh Scobie, old faithful, old reliable in the offseason. Trade him away to Pittsburgh because you got this young, fresh new kicker from Marist College named Jason Myers who can kick it a ton. Can't make the game-winning field goals. Can't make it when the pressure is its greatest. And that's the mark and a test of a true kicker. How do you respond in critical moments? When your team needs you the most, what do you do? And Jason Myers responded with a resounding, I don't know what the hell to do. Okay, I've never been in this situation. I come from Marist College, for God's sake. I didn't have any pressure kicks there. And so this one hurts because had a chance to win it in regulation. Couldn't get it done. Had another, got a mulligan, another chance. in OT. Could have still been the hero. Could have went from GOAT to hero in a matter of 10 minutes, and he blew it again. And so let's go to the Colts side of things. It's a painful loss. If you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, it's a painful loss for your head coach. And you know, I'm a huge Gus Bradley fan, but you keep losing these type of games, and eventually they're gonna pile up and you're gonna get canned, and I just don't wanna see that happen to him. But you gotta win these type of games. You know, no Andrew Luck. This is the perfect setting to get it done, and you blow it. But Colts score a touchdown aided by 5 Jaguar penalties. Again, you're not good enough to help me. They don't need your help. Okay, they've won this division 80 years in a row. They've won 14, now 15 after this game. Straight AFC South games. They don't need your help. They don't need your help. Don't give them help. 5 penalties, takes them right down the field for 42 yards, and they ended up getting a touchdown to Kobe Fleener. Makes it 10-all at the time, but Blake takes his team down the field, gets a field goal right before halftime, but it doesn't matter. Damage is done. You could have been up big. Instead, now they're in the ball game at 13-10. The Colts defense, they bent a bunch in this game, but they never actually broke, and that's part of the reason why they were able to win this game. I thought that Blake Lee did some good things in this game. I thought he moved his team down the field at certain points in this game, but they never allowed them in the end zone. Except for that one time. And so by doing that, by forcing them to kick field goals, it gave this team a chance to hang in the ball game when they should have been out of this ball game. And they gave up 13 points in the first half. They didn't give up a single point the rest of the game. So big kudos to this Colts defense. And this is a much maligned Colts defense. And this is a much maligned Colts defense, and for good reason. They haven't gotten it done, but they got it done in this game. Speaking of which, much maligned, a lot of off-season acquisitions for this team, and a lot of people like to talk about Chuck Pagano, but I'm like, do you understand? And I know Ryan Grigson has gotten a lot of accolades. He actually won GM of the Year a couple years back, but these off-season acquisitions, this is pretty bad. And if you look at this Colts roster, this is not a great roster, okay? Frank Gore, Andre Johnson, Trent Cole, Todd Hermans. None of these acquisitions right now very beneficial for you. I think of that whole group, Frank Gore is the one guy that I think can give you some quality snaps this season. And in overtime on that possession that won you the football game, I thought Frank Gore was tremendous. But he is one of the guys that's hurting you right now. He fumbled against the Jets at a time when you had a chance to come back and steal that football game. He fumbles right around the end zone. Jets recover. You never have a chance in that game after that, for the most part. He fumbles again in this game, right by the end zone. Same exact thing. Not as close, but damn it, you're inside the red zone. You're inside the 10, and he coughs it up again. I mean, these guys are hurting you. They're not helping. You had to bench Todd Hermans. Trent Cole hasn't sniffed the quarterback yet, and Andre Johnson doesn't look anything like the man that was once known as the one and only DRE in Houston. He looks like a shuttle himself. Those were bad moves in the offseason, and you're paying for them right now. But you dodge a bullet. You get away with one. Jags don't know how to win, and you're able to sneak them 16-13 in overtime. You should have lost this football game. There is no way you should have won this game. You look at that fumble by Frank Gore, and you say to yourself, if he doesn't fumble that football, we get a touchdown there, and we probably win this game. And we're not even having this discussion about him missing kicks and all that, but you did, and that's why you haven't been that good this year, because of timely turnovers and mistakes. This is a team that's struggling right now, and you're getting by because you play in the AFC South. Got away last week because of a young team that didn't know how to close the show. Got away in this game because of a young team that didn't know how to close the show. You're just barely escaping. Your luck may run out though. Hey, that was a Andrew Luck may be back. Your luck may run out next week. That was a good one. Thanks. I appreciate that. But we'll see. Houston, another team struggling. We'll talk about them here in a second. Matter of fact, that's the next game up. We'll talk about them in a second. They're struggling. They got their own problems to deal with. We'll see what happens. But Colts get it done. 16-13 in overtime. Go to 2-2 in the season. Get back to 500. Seems like they've righted the ship for now. And I've said this before. It doesn't really matter at this point. They're going to win this division. Nobody else in this division wants to win this division, is good enough to win this division, other than the Indianapolis Colts. So I think when it's all said and done, Colts are going to get it done anyway. Houston at Atlanta. Whew, this one got ugly and fast. Let's go to Houston quickly. used to self-destruct with turnovers. And look, you can't go on the road against an undefeated team and expect to win when you make the type of mistakes that the Texans made in this ball game. Their turnovers led to 14 of Atlanta's 21 points to start out this game. Injuries starting to mount at the wide receiver position. You lose Cecil Shorts III to a shoulder injury in this game. He didn't return. You lose Nate Washington to a hamstring injury. He doesn't return. And so you were really hurting that wide receiver. The defense, they're not making enough plays. And to me, that's the most disappointing part about this football team to start the season. You already knew that Arian was going to be out for a little while. You knew you already had a really suspect quarterbacking situation. So you said, okay, what's the one thing we're going to have to hang our hat on? What's the one thing that we can hang our hat on? Oh, defense. We'll be fine there. J.J. Watt, Clowney coming back, Cushing, the secondary is really good. We'll be fine defensively. We'll hold teams down and we'll do enough to win ball games. Defense hasn't held anybody down other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so that's why you're 1-3 at this point, and you haven't been in a lot of these ball games. The Chiefs game was a blowout. This game was a blowout. This team hasn't been really in ball games because their defense isn't stepping up and making plays, and it's really frustrating. Field goal kicking situation still unstable. You get rid of Bullock, which we saw coming, and you kind of give guys rope. He was a young kicker a couple years ago. You let him slide. Had some struggles this year. You say, okay, enough's enough. So you go out and get Nick Novak. Well, I'm here to tell you, Nick Novak doesn't have a leg. Pretty accurate from 45 and in. You make him go 49, then make him go 53, and you sent him out there for a 55-yarder. What do you think he's going to do? That guy didn't have the leg for that. He misses that kick and misses it horribly. And so you still got issues kicking the football. Ryan Mallett was so inaccurate in this game, it's not even funny. And so he ended up getting yanked late in the ball game. They bring in Billy Ho, and he leads you to 3 touchdown scores, puts some points on the scoreboard. So then you start thinking, hey, are we going to switch quarterbacks for this short week, Thursday Night Football? Billy O says, no, I'm not doing that. Ryan Mallett's our starter for now. So he's going to get another crack at it. But that's always been the issue and the knock on Ryan Mallett is accuracy. The guy's got a kin, okay? No dispute that. But it's where he's spraying the football over the place is a problem. He's not an accurate quarterback. You saw that a lot of guys having to turn backwards and balls not in a position where they can get yards after the catch. Very inaccurate in this game, and it hurt this Texans team. You go to the Falcons, why you do those boys like that, man? They struggling, they got problems of their own, and you just gonna pile on them? That was really dirty, and I like it. Falcons, they found a new weapon in Devontae Freeman, man. And they didn't even find this one on purpose. This happened by accident. They were gonna give the young fella, Tevin Coleman, all the run, and have Devontae Freeman come off the bench as that pinch hitter. And the young fella, Tevin Coleman, goes down with some ribs, and Freeman comes in and he's hit the ground running. You can't give Tevin Coleman back the rock when he comes back. He's got to come off the bench now because this kid, Devontae Freeman, is everything you signed up for out of Florida State last year in the second round. This is exactly what you thought you were getting, and he looks the part. Another 3 touchdowns this week. Had 3 last week. He is doing it up big in a major way, and not only is he a threat out of the backfield to run it, he's also a guy that can hurt you catching the football. And I think he set a career high in receiving yards in this game. So he is tremendous right now for this Falcons offense. The defense, very opportunistic, and they've been that way all season. It started in week 1 versus the Eagles with turnovers. They continue to generate turnovers. 3 first-half turnovers forced by this Falcons outfit gives them an opportunity to put points on the scoreboard. They were up 28-0 at the half. And so they're making plays. Offense is taking those turnovers and converting them into points. Hank Time's starting to make plays for you, man. And I thought that was a really good pickup for you. Leonard Hankerson is really starting to emerge in this offense, and he's starting to do damage. Gives you an alternate option at the receiver position to Julio Jones. And he didn't even have to do a lot this week, which he needed a week off. Okay, he needed to be able to go because they were really riding his back the last couple of weeks, and he obliged. He got a week off. Other guys stepped up. Freeman stepped up. Hank stepped up. So good to see other guys getting involved. Even your backup running back came in and did some damage. So Falcons really having it all click for them right now as they start the season 4-0. The league got as big as 42-0. I mean, it really got ugly. Like I said, why you do those boys like that, man? You didn't have to do that. They ain't even in the NFC. Those some AFC boys, man. You could have let those boys leave with about a 14-point lump on their dome. Now you had to give them a big boy smack upside the head. That's nasty. But I got a question for you though. Should I be worried about Roddy White? Is he done? I mean, is that officially done? Is that officially over with? I don't know. It doesn't look good though, man. He doesn't look right. I don't see him doing anything. He's a non-factor week after week after week. I'll come back and ask you that in a couple of weeks and we'll reconvene this conversation. But should I be worried? I'm not worried yet. Yeah, I'm lying. I am worried, but that's another topic for another day. Falcons get it done 48-21. Even forced a turnover on the last play of the game and running in for a touchdown. They get it done and go to 4-0 on the season. Meanwhile, the Texans dropped to 1-3 and they got a short turnaround Thursday night against the Colts. For all intents and purposes, that's their season. They go to 1-4 and they can wrap it up. They win this game and it opens the AFC South back up to everyone, including the Jaguars and the Titans. So that's a big game in the AFC South. We go to the next matchup. The Oakland Raiders taking on the Chicago Bears. And this was a big game for both teams involved. If you're the Bears, everyone, and me included, saying the Bears have waved the white flag, they're trading away players, and if they continue to struggle, more guys will be shipped out. But Cutler came back, and he changes the whole dynamics of this offense because he can do things that, frankly, no other quarterback on that team can do. They're still waiting on Alshon Jeffrey. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. But just getting Cutler back was a big coup for this Bears football team. Meanwhile, if you're the Raiders, you're 2-1. You've won 2 in a row. You're playing with confidence. This is a chance to go to 3-1. You got Denver next week. This is a chance to set up a huge matchup in the AFC West. But you got to take care of this one first. I talked to them on the podcast last week. They did not listen to my message. Let's jump on the Raiders first in this game. Gorgeous catch by Amari Cooper. When the ball's in the sky and you need a guy, it's somebody. And that's Amari Cooper, man. Ball in the air, goes and tracks it, gets 2 feet down, gorgeous catch, back in the end zone, makes it 7-6, gives the Raiders their first lead of this ball game. The tight end position continues to be a massive problem for this Raiders defense. They've been destroyed by every single tight end that they faced this season, starting in week 1 with Tyler Eifert. Then it was Gilmore for the Ravens. Then it was Gary Barnidge for the Browns, and now Martellus Bennett for the Bears. They just haven't had, and I talked about this last week, after Gary Barnidge put 6 for a buck and some change on you last week. You gotta stop the tight ends, man. And he catches a wide open touchdown, does Bennett. He's catching wide receiver screens and hitches, and he's open across the, I mean, first possession of the game, he catches one and runs for about 25, 30 yards. I mean, the tight end position is killing you. You have to find a way to stop the tight end. If I'm a team playing the Raiders, I'm putting in a specific package of nothing but plays for my tight end to get him open because this team struggles to stop the tight end. Roy Halou needs more touches. He needs to be in the game more. And this isn't a byproduct of Latavius Murray fumbling and having issues in this game. We'll talk about that in a second. He just needs to be in the game more. He's a playmaker. He's a guy that when you get the football in his hands, you see good things happen. I want to see him in the game more. And you saw that in this game. Had a touchdown, made some plays on that last possession that got you into field goal range. You need to put Roy Halou Jr. in this game a little bit more and allow him to help you on the offensive side of football. The Raiders force a fumble of Matt Forte, but Seth Roberts can't get 2 feet. You got to get 2 feet in there, man. Look, these are the plays that put you over the top. When you're a Raiders football team trying to instill confidence in yourself and you're trying to change your culture, these are the plays that change ball games and get you a win and get you back on the flight home feeling good about yourself. Beautiful throw by Derek Carr. A good catch by Seth Roberts. Get your feet down, buddy. You gotta get your feet down, bro. And you didn't. That was a big play. They had to settle for a field goal. Raiders still, and this is the biggest thing in this game, they're still fighting those demons though, man. They're still fighting being the difference between being the old Raiders and trying to turn over a new leaf and be a different Raiders team. They still fighting those, and it's hard, man. It's like, you know, losing is like a drug. okay? It is very addictive. You start losing ball games, it becomes a culture, it spreads, and it's hard to kick that habit, all right? And right now, you know, once a loser, you're always a loser, okay? Once you're an alcoholic, you can get the help you need, but you're one drink away from being drunk again, from being an alcoholic again. And that Raiders team had been doing a good job of taking care of the football. They weren't making mistakes. They were putting themselves in positions to win. And then you have Latavius Murray throw the ball away right before the half, okay? I don't want it, you take it. Oh, okay, well, I'll take this interception. Yeah, I'll do that, appreciate it. Throws the football to the Bears defender for his first turnover game, late in the ball game. I thought that was a huge possession. They looked like they were, not only were they already ahead, they looked like they were gonna be able to put the game out of reach. Even a field goal there puts you at 5, gives you a chance to force the Bears to have to score a touchdown to beat you. Instead, Latavius Murray fumbles. It turns into a field goal that gives the Bears the lead. Then the Raiders have to go back down the field and take the lead with a field goal. But because of that first fumble by Murray, that gave the Bears an opportunity to put 3 points on the board that shouldn't have been there, and ultimately cost this Raiders team in this ball game. They're still fighting those demons with those bad turnovers, and Latavius Murray really hurt you in this game. With the first turnover, though, give some credit to the defense. They were able to have a nice goal line stand and force the Bears to kick a field goal, but gotta stop making those kind of mistakes if you want to win games and turn into the type of team that you feel like you have. Can't make those mistakes, especially when you're on the road trying to win a ball game. Uncle Charles strikes again, though, man. The Hall of Famer does it again, picks off Jay Cutler. Bears going for more points. Uncle Charles steps in front of an offering. Let me get that. You don't know what to do with that, homie. Let me get that. Takes it away, and it's just what this guy does. I don't know where this team would be without his leadership, A, but more importantly, his play on the field, B. This guy's still playing at a relatively high level, and he's making plays. We saw last week him make the game-clinching interception. This was a huge play in this game at the time. Uncle Charles still doing it up for this Oakland Raiders football team. But you go to the Bears, gorgeous opening drive right down the field. Touchdown to Eddie Rowe. You saw the impact that Jay Cutler had early in this game. He was moving. He showed the mobility, escaped the pocket, made some plays down the field with his arm. He did some big things on that opening drive. And you really, I mean, you go from last week's performance where this team had 9 straight punts on 9 possessions and could do nothing right on the offensive side to the first possession of this game where they go right down the field and get in the end zone. Cutler makes that kind of difference for this team. But then they have the PAT blocked, which, I mean, we're talking about an 0-3 Bears team now, okay? This is the same team I called the worst team in the league last week. And like I said, and that was a caveat, there was a caveat there. I said, without Cutler, without Alshon Jeffrey, this is the worst team in the league. And with Cutler back in the lineup, they're not the worst team anymore. And you saw that, but they still make the type of mistakes that the worst team in the league makes, getting a point after try blocked. You just can't have that happen. Bears making costly mistakes. They had the point after touchdown block, as I just mentioned. The very next kickoff, the ensuing kickoff, after they score that touchdown, they have the extra point block. Their kicker kicks it out of bounds. Gives the Raiders the football at the 40-yard line. Now, the Raiders didn't do anything with it, but again, what are we doing here? I mean, come on. Seriously? And then they have a fumble. Jay Cutler fumbles the football like it's like a fumble snap. I don't know what the heck happened on that play. Nonetheless, Raiders recover. That turns into points. So they were struggling. I mean, they were down 14-6. After that fumble, Raiders took that, deposited into the end zone on a Roy Halou touchdown, and it's 14-6. You're down, and they can get ugly here. I mean, we're talking about an 0-3 football team here. They could have dropped their heads and said, "Oh, here we go again." But they didn't do that in this game. Bears having more miscues though, leading to more Raider points. They had a fumble by Matt Forte that turns into a field goal, and so it's now 17-16. So again, that's what bad teams do. You know, when you have an opportunity to build some momentum in the course of the game, you're up 14-16, you've scored 10 straight unanswered points, you're feeling good about yourself, and then you turn it over and give the Raiders an opportunity to snap that streak of 10 unanswered points, get some momentum and get some points on the board and take the lead in the game. So again, that's what bad teams do. But at the end of the day, Robbie Gould is still as good as gold, as he knocks it home from 54 to give the Bears a 19-17 lead, and then comes back one final time and drills it for the game winner and gives the Bears a 22-20 win over the Raiders for their first win of the season. Takes them from the ranks of the winless in this league and really hurts the Raiders. They were on a 2-game winning streak. This one stinks. It really does. And you know what? They made too many mistakes to win on the road. It's as simple as that. You got to catch the football in the end zone. If you're Seth Roberts, you can't have 2 mistakes by Latavius Murray to turn it over, especially the one late in the ball game. That really crippled you. There's too many mistakes. You want to win on the road. You want to change the culture. You got to make plays, and you can't have the mistakes. And they had them in this game. And so the Raiders fall 22-20 and now drop to 2-2 on the season. We finish up the part 1 breakdown with Carolina at Tampa Bay. Buccaneers going home after a tough loss on the road versus Houston, looking to try to knock the Panthers from the ranks of the unbeaten. And the Panthers came into this game saying, look, man, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to play some outstanding football. We're not going to give you anything. And Jameis Winston, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, he's going to make mistakes. So if you're a Buccaneers fan, get used to these 2 and 3 interception games. He's going to have a couple of these this season. And you can't have 5 turnovers and beat anybody. I mean, let alone a team that has won this division 2 years in a row, that's undefeated coming into this game. You can't have 5 turnovers and expect to win, okay? It's not going to happen. And let's start with Carolina, though. I'm going to say this a couple more times, and then I'm just going to let everybody figure it out. Leave Jay Nutso alone. I keep saying this. Nobody's listening to me. Will you just leave this guy alone, please? Okay? What does it take? Another pick 6? You know, another 2 interception game? What is it going to take for you to understand that that's not the guy you want to try? I told you there's old man Tillman on the other side. There's Bené Ben Wickery out there lurking somewhere. Try one of those guys. Leave Jay Nutso alone. They're going to learn, man. But you don't learn until it's your turn. I keep trying to tell people, you don't learn until it's your turn. Well, it was Jameis Winston's turn to learn. Leave Jay Nutso alone. This defense was feasting on Buccaneer mistakes all game long, from start to finish. They had their way with this Buccaneers offense. Even though guys had some really good games, their running back, Doug E. had over 100 yards for the first time this season. V. Jax went off, had a bunch of catches for over 100 yards. But they had turnovers galore. Jameis Winston, those 4 interceptions, they fumbled the football, had 5 turnovers in this game. You just can't have those things happen and expect to win. And this defense was opportunistic, forcing turnovers on a very wet, nasty, and sloppy day in Tampa. Speaking of sloppy and wet, Panthers were sloppy with the football themselves in this game. They fumbled on 2 straight plays, 2 consecutive plays, lost both of them. Okay, one was recovered, led to some Buccaneer points. The other was scooped up, and this is a situation where you're just like, hey man, y'all gotta hold on to the football. Don't help these guys, okay? They need all the help they can get. Don't help them. Don't help them out. Put these boys out of their misery, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Make it nice and painless as possible, and move on to the next game. And so those fumbles kept them with hope in this game. They actually get in the end zone on one of these and cut this to a 17-10 ball game. Don't let these guys hang around. That's what I was saying at the time, but as fate would have it, they did more than enough to put these guys away and put this game away. For the second time, and this is my last time saying this, leave Jay Nutso alone. Okay, picks Jameis Winston off, takes him to the crib early in the game, does it again later on in the game. Doesn't take this one to the crib, but had a beautiful return on it, had a knockaway. He's not learning this. I'm like, if you see 24, just go the other way. Just go the other way. No need to even do this. Why are we having this discussion? Second week in a row, I'm having to tell somebody, leave this man alone. Stop it already. Seriously, stop it. Okay? Ryan Delaire looks legit, man. This is a kid you signed off the street. He was an undrafted free agent for Tampa Bay. They got rid of him. You sign him up. Here's a guy out of Townsend that comes in, undersized a little bit in terms of bulk, but this guy's extremely athletic. He was explosive off the edge, had 2 sacks in this game. He looks legit. I want to see more of this kid. You went out and got Jared Allen, but he wasn't the one making the noise in this game. That distinction belongs to Ryan Delaire, and I want to see more. I'm intrigued. he looks like the next big thing. Possibly, and I don't want to overdo it, okay? But he looks like he could be the next big thing at the defensive end position for this Carolina Panthers football team. And finally, Teddy Ballgame continues to make plays, man. Ted Ginn Jr., Teddy Ballgame, it's looking damn good, man. And it seems like he goes anywhere else in the league, and he's just another guy. Comes to Carolina, and he's a beast. And he's out there dragging and toe tapping and making plays. 2 more touchdowns for Teddy Ballgame in this football game. Wow. That's all I can say. I don't know what else to say, man, but wow. Teddy Ballgame is doing it up big. I go to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I talked about 5 turnovers on the game, and you can't do that and expect to win. I'm honestly not going to beat anybody doing it. Okay, 5 turnovers is going to get you beat 37-23. Luckily, it didn't get you beat and get a 40 burger put on your head. Because normally when you turn over 5 times, you get a 40 burger put on your forehead. But second play of the game, you fumble the football. And that's this Buccaneers team right now. Too many mistakes. Too many self-inflicted wounds. Can't turn the ball over on the second play of the game. I mean, seriously. I remember the first game of the season, Jameis Winston, second, third play of the game, pick 6, Cody Sensabaugh. Just like that, it's 14-0. Same thing here, you know. Early in the ball game, you fumble the football, leads to a field goal. The next possession, pick 6 to Josh Norman, it's 10-0. And the defense hasn't done anything wrong. Seriously, I mean, what do you want the defense to do? You put them in a 10-0 hole just like that. All 17 of Carolina's points to start off the game, all off Tampa Bay Buccaneer turnovers. That tells you all you need to know right there. Kyle Brenza misses another field goal. He strikes again. He's got to go. Okay, normally with these young kickers, you want to give them a chance. You hate to cut bait with a young field goal kicker early in their careers because much like a quarterback or any other player, when they're young, they're prone to mistakes and they just need time. But with field goal kicking, it's a little different because they don't have to grasp a playbook. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to think. Just go out there and do your job. Just kick the football through the uprights. So, you don't have a lot of patience for those guys. Unlike a quarterback, we're like, man, he don't even know the playbook yet. He's got to get adjusted to the speed of the game. There is different terminology. Yeah, there's a lot of different moving parts there to start someone's growth at a different position on the field. Other than punter, other than kicker, other than long snapper. You don't have patience for guys like that because your job is pretty simple. You got one thing to do, just do that. Okay, don't mess that up and you'll be just fine. He's messing that up. He's got to go. Okay, there's too many guys out on the streets that can make the type of kicks that he's missing. Get rid of him. So, he missed one before the half, changed the game. Missed one after the half, changed the game. He's got to go. Fourth Buccaneers turnover turns into the 24th Panther point of the game again. You didn't score 24 points in the entire game, yet you gave up 24 points off the turnovers in this game. That's how bad you were with the football in this game. And that led to a 31-10 lead. At that point, game's over, it's done, game, set, match. But I will mention this as a little caveat on the way out. Doug E. Frosh, I already mentioned this before, 100 yards in this game. You gotta stay in ball games so you can beat this guy the rock. He's playing good football. V. Jackson's out there balling. Mikey's gonna come around at some point. You got stuff, man, but you don't get to use your stuff when you're turning the football over and you're getting blown out of ball games like you did against Tennessee. Second time you've been at home this year. Second time you've taken a monumental ass whooping at home this year. Because you keep turning over the football game when you're at home. You gotta fix this. At home, in front of the home crowd, you're making an ass out of yourself. Gotta clean this up. Second time in a row, at home, you get blown out because you decided you wanted to turn the football over. Buccaneers drop this one 37-23. Panthers go to 4-0 in the season. Buccaneers drop to 1-3. Panthers look good, Falcons look good. I can't wait till those two play each other because that's where this division lies. One of those two teams is gonna win this thing. Looks good right now for the Panthers. They're playing top-notch ball, and they're going to get Luke Kuechly back next week. Looks like his concussion symptoms are starting to subside. Sounds like he's going to be able to go. So that's a big, big get for the Panthers as they start to really hit their stride on the defensive side of the football. That's going to do it for this edition of the Hurry, Hut, Hut. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter @InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.
Mm-hmm.